She was the last person you'd ever suspect. A nurse. Young, soft-spoken, trusted, loved by parents, always there when things went wrong. But behind her quiet smile was something else entirely. In just 59 days, children on her ward collapsed without warning. Some stopped breathing, some never woke up, and every time she was there, first on the scene, sounding the alarm, playing the hero. But what if the hero was the one starting the fire? This is the story of Beverley Allitt, the nurse who became Britain's most dangerous child killer, and the terrifying truth of what happened on Ward 4. Welcome to Unveiled Crime Mysteries channel, where I unveil mysterious true crimes, some lost to time, others fresh in memory. Justice might not be served, but the shadow is unveiled. No matter what you say, I'm sticking to my story. I did not do it. That's her voice, soft, childish. But this isn't a kid. This is one of Britain's most dangerous serial killers. I just can't get it through to nobody. I am not bloody lying. I won't do it. 25 years after I first reported on Beverley Allitt's conviction, we're now able to uncover what we couldn't back then. She was only 22 when she murdered 4 children, 9 more she left injured, some barely survived. Now those survivors are ready to speak. For many it's the first time. What frightens you now? You, the nurse, might be coming back for. They've never forgotten. I've come to meet the man who caught her, against all odds. One senior officer told him bluntly, "You're chasing rainbows." For the first time I've heard the tapes, the police interviews, the raw, unedited voice of Beverley Allitt. No matter what you say, and no matter how much you don't believe me, and I know you don't, I don't care. We played those tapes for the survivors. Some learned details they'd never been told. I didn't really know about that bit. We asked the big question, why did she do it? One expert puts it bluntly. It might be a much, much darker thing, which is the act of killing is enormously exciting. And now, we uncover something else, evidence that Allitt may have tricked her way out of prison and into a psychiatric hospital. Because here's the thing about Beverley Allitt, whatever Beverley Allitt wants, she will manipulate to try and get. She's a child killer. But while her victims carry scars, she's been living in comfort. She's a child murderer. She's been living the life of Riley in there. I know I don't want to talk about it. And this case, it never left me. It all started at a small hospital in Lincolnshire. Children on one ward kept collapsing, their hearts stopped, their lungs failed. It made no sense. Grantham and Kesteven General, Ward 4. In the end, a nurse was convicted for the first time in British history of killing children in hospital care. 4 murders, 3 attempted murders, 6 counts of grievous bodily harm. It's been 25 years. I'm still asking how she did it, and why no one stopped her sooner. Now I've come back to Grantham to find the children who survived her, and the detective who wouldn't let her get away with it. Superintendent Stuart Clifton remembers the day the call came. April 30th, 1991. A detective rang. There were too many deaths, too many collapses. The next morning, Clifton was at the hospital. He sat down with 2 pediatricians. Together they counted 4 dead, more than 20 near-fatal collapses. One doctor suspected foul play, the other thought it was just bad luck. Dr. Nanyukara felt that the collapses of children on that ward were just a blip on a graph, but Clifton had a gut feeling. One very senior officer said to me, "You're chasing rainbows." Still, he carried on. Something wasn't right, and he wasn't going to stop until he found out what. They brought her to Grantham police station. The press were already waiting, cameras flashing. She steps out of the van, calm, composed, smiling. She looks as if she's enjoying it, don't she? She peers out, barely reacting. She has got a smile on her face. The officer beside her looks tense, unsure. I'm looking quite perplexed about it all, I think. But her, she certainly looks more relaxed than what I look. She doesn't look worried at all, does she? Inside, detectives had a problem. They didn't have enough evidence. No DNA, no fingerprints, no smoking gun. They needed her to talk. This interview is being recorded. I am Police 1489 Billingsley, stationed at Grantham. My colleague is Neil Charles, Detective Inspector. What's your full name, please? Fanny Gale, I think. This was new ground. It's the first time in my career that I had interviewed anybody that was under such suspicion. The pressure to get it right was real. There's a certain amount of anxiety that you get the interview right at the time. They read her rights. She didn't get it. You don't have to say anything unless you wish to do so. What you say may be given in evidence. I don't understand all that. The police knew one thing for certain. Baby Paul Crampton had been poisoned. With insulin. They were sure it was her, but they had no direct proof. They needed her to crack. You're arrested this morning on suspicion of the attempt murder of Paul Crampton, who was a baby on the ward from about the 20th of March. These tapes haven't been heard in more than 25 years. Do you remember that child being on ward? Yes, I do. They began to question her about Paul. We have got this kid in for Paul Crampton. Either some harm has been done to it, and you are the prime suspect at the moment. Everything points at you. I don't think so. What can I do to say I didn't? I told you I didn't do it. No panic. No breakdown. I wouldn't dream of doing it to anybody. Why a patient if I hated somebody that much? It became clear she wasn't going to confess, so they tried pinning her down. Where exactly was she when Paul collapsed? Who else was in the room? You went in there. Also in there was Dad, Mr. Crampton, and Paul. Paul's dad, David, never heard this before. She never gave evidence in court. He wanted answers. Did you give that child anything? Not a thing. I don't think I even went in the room. She mocks the whole idea. I'm really going to sneak back on the ward and say, oh, here, I'll have a bit of this. Those who knew the case best say she had a plan. These tapes bring that into real crystal clarity. Clear thinking, clear thought, clear plan, knows where I want to get to. No matter how much you don't believe me, and I know you don't, I don't care. I can't bloody lie to you. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you for days on end while I get questioned. Her confidence was unnerving. I think she thought, which she did, that she knew more than we did, and that put her in control, which she obviously enjoyed. I'll tell you what, when I found out who did it, it was get out of here. It was pissing time. I off. Still, the clock was ticking, and the evidence just wasn't enough. They couldn't hold her much longer. You don't have evidence to say I injected him. What am I doing? Going round flipping, doing something to him? I wouldn't. What? Will you tell me what I could do? I am not bloody lying. I wouldn't do that. Without a breakthrough, police would have to let her go. A suspected killer, back on the children's ward. All I can say is the poor Crampton suffered that because of insulin, so we have to look at who's had the access to insulin. No matter what you say, I'm sticking to my story. I did not do it. She didn't flinch. She didn't fold. In fact, she leaned in harder. Is there anything you just want to clarify? Yeah, I'll be here all year. Keep me all year. The only thing you want to say is, ask me next year. I'll tell you when I'm retired. One of the officers later said, so what did you think hearing those words again? It brings it all back actually, and you heard her. You know she sounded confident. She replied to us straight away. There was no hesitation. She knew exactly what she was doing, but she was absolutely defiant in saying that she was not involved. It just hams home to me how devious she was. With no confession, and still no smoking gun, Clifton had no choice. He had to let her go. I released her on bail because the Police and Criminal Evidence Act ties you to time limits. And then came the unthinkable. He had to beg the hospital not to let her back on the ward. If this was a killer, and I believed at that stage it was, allowing somebody to go back into an environment where they could yet again kill was more than I could stomach. He couldn't say much publicly. Appearing on News at 10, he kept his words careful. It's too early yet to say whether there is anything at all sinister in this case, but privately, he already knew the truth. He just couldn't say it, not even to the parents. Dr. Porter left the room. The girl was doing better. He went to tell her parents she was on the mend. But in the short time she was left with Beverley Allitt, she stopped breathing. Again, this time they couldn't bring her back. A child who was recovering. Gone. In minutes. He said you had a smile. Did he find you some music? No reply. They were certain the first collapse had been reversed, but the second one, that was Beverley. Absolutely. Absolutely. This time police had enough. She was arrested. The reaction in court was instant. You're a fool. You're a whore. You're a bastard. The charges were serious. 4 murders, 3 attempted murders, 6 counts of GBH. I'm arresting you on suspicion of the attempted murder of this child on the 9th of April, 1991. You do not have to say anything unless you wish to do so. I have to tell you that you do not have to say anything unless you wish to do so, but what you say may be given away. I am now arresting you for the attempted murder of Kaylee Jaunders. She said nothing. Can you recall what day? No, I can't. They put her in a cell. She slept. They had to wake her to take her to court. No fear, no panic. This wasn't just a nurse. This was someone sadistic, cold. She kept going, child after child. No emotion, no remorse. She stood in the dock at Grantham, charged with the murder of 3 babies and an 11-year-old. The trial began February 15th, 1993. She denied everything. 4 murders, 11 attempts. But the evidence told a different story. Some had been smothered. 3 months later, the jury delivered the verdicts. You could feel the release in the room. There was an audible sigh of relief as the first of the guilty verdicts was announced. Guilty of murdering 4 children. Guilty of 3 attempted murders. Guilty of 6 counts of GBH. It was a first. A nurse found guilty of killing children in a British hospital. You put so much faith and trust in nurses. They're supposed to help you. Do I feel betrayed by the nurse? Absolutely. Absolutely. Families wanted life in prison. Nothing less. They got it. Nurse Beverley Allitt begins a sentence without end tonight for murdering 4 children in her care and for injuring 9 others. We're very pleased. 13 life sentences is what we hoped for, and that's exactly what we've got. I only hope that she's never released. She was sent to Holloway Prison, but she didn't stay long. 1 week later, she was moved. She spent nearly 3 decades in Rampton Secure Hospital, a patient, not just a prisoner. Should she have ever been moved there at all? Before her trial, she told friends she'd never go to prison. She wasn't classed as mentally ill when she committed the murders. She didn't meet the threshold for hospital sentencing, but once in prison, she refused to eat, refused to drink. Then came the label, psychopathic disorder. That was all it took. 1 week in, and she was out of prison, into Rampton. ITV cameras got rare access inside. They filmed her there. It's not too bad. What's the good thing about it? We're out, got more freedom in it. You like it better than where you were before. Why? Because I've got more freedom. I'm not locked up all the time. People are furious. I think it's wrong. She should be in a prison for the crimes she committed. She's a murderer. She's a child murderer. She's been living the life of Riley in there. She should be serving her life sentences in a prison behind bars. Experts were called in. The question was clear. Was she ever mentally ill to begin with? But what if it's a deliberate fault you're making? What can I do deliberately to do it? Jeremy Coyd has assessed some of Britain's worst. She doesn't sound like somebody who has a severe mental illness or a personality disorder, so severe that she needs to go to Rampton. Criminologist Elizabeth Yardley agrees. When we start talking about mental ill health, we're looking at people who aren't in control of their actions. But it's very clear to me that Beverley Allitt knew exactly what she was doing. She knew it was wrong, and she chose to do it anyway. I think somebody who has committed murder, knowingly, willingly, I think yes, they should be in prison. Allitt was first moved from prison when she showed signs of anorexia while awaiting trial. But our team uncovered a psychiatric report from before trial. It said she was fit to plead. It raised questions. Was the illness faked to dodge prison? We've seen the report. It strongly suggests she manipulated the symptoms. Is this more evidence of her manipulative behavior? I think this woman is an incredibly manipulative individual. She's somebody who has managed to pull the strings of other people for years and years before she was even convicted of these crimes. So why would she have changed her behavior? Could someone really play the system like that? I think it's very difficult to simply manipulate your way into prison or into hospital. Otherwise, they'd be full of all sorts of people that shouldn't be there. It is not impossible that somebody changes their presentation to try and do what they think is best for them, but that's not an easy task. And you're going to have to do that consistently with a whole bunch of people who are trained to see whether or not you're accurately saying what you're saying. Over time, she's been diagnosed with a string of personality disorders, but only one person knows the truth. I don't talk about it. Even now, 25 years later, the big question hangs. Why? I've always been puzzled why somebody who joins a caring profession would suddenly start and harm children. I've never understood it. In court, experts put forward Munchausen by proxy, attention-seeking that turns violent, hurting others to become the rescuer. Police confronted her with that. But aren't you proud of the fact that this is happening? You've saved her. No. How can I say this doctor's not me, and you've not alerted the doctor? What potentially could have happened to these children? They'd have been found dead, I should think. So whose feather in the cap it? Who's the hero? In my layman's terms, I call it the fireman syndrome. What's that? I'm a fireman. I'll start a fire. I'll raise the alarm. I'll put it out, and I'm a hero. But others believe it went deeper, much darker. A nurse who didn't just want control. She wanted the power to end life. There may well have been an element of the fireman syndrome, but there might be a much darker thing, where she sits with the child in her arms, watching it die, and getting off on the control of that. And actually, the act of killing is enormously exciting. It's enormously pleasurable. She may have found purpose in it, but did she ever explain why? Only one man had the chance to ask her, Detective Stuart Clifton. He visited her in Rampton, months after the trial. How was she? Very calm. Did she say why she did it? She merely said, "Yes, I'm responsible, but I didn't do all 13. I only did 9. She said that to you. Yes. How did she say this? She just blurted it out. I think there's no other way of putting it. Why have you done it? Her head goes down. She doesn't answer. And has she made any other response since? No, the family's never heard that part. They're still haunted by her silence. But we found a document, a failed application. She wanted to stay in hospital, not go back to prison. In it she admitted it all 13. No one had told the families. I didn't really know about that bit. Were you never told? No, it means something, but not enough. It makes me feel better that she admitted to it, but it was more in her self-interest. It would mean more if she pleaded guilty at the trial. We was never aware of it. Never. No. Too little. Too late. Making this film, I've come to understand more about who Beverley Allitt really is. When she sat in Rampton, was there any hint of regret?
None at all. Believe me, and I know they don't. I don't care. She's shown no remorse. Not once. Her crimes didn't just take lives. They rippled out, like a stone in a pond. Families, brothers, sisters, survivors. I've seen how she continued to manipulate and control, even after she was caught. But the one question that matters, the one that still keeps people awake, remains unanswered. Why did she do it? That's one secret Beverley Allitt may never give up. She may take it with her to the grave. If you found this story chilling, subscribe, because there are more shadows to be unveiled, and more truths waiting in the dark.